Hey guys, it's Alvin Taveras, president and founder of Build to Rent, and today we're going to be talking about Homosassa, Florida, and why it's the best hidden gem inside of Florida. Currently at Build to Rent, we work with over 22 builders across 5 different states, and by far our favorite state is Florida. But Florida has undoubtedly become a harder market to invest in. We've seen prices stay elevated, we can't really bank on appreciation, and interest rates are still high. This forces us to look at markets that are maybe underserved and have hidden opportunities. This is why Homosassa wins. So we're going to start this adventure by looking at the map. A lot of investors know us for our major cities, which is Miami, Tampa, Orlando, and Jacksonville. But what often happens in these major cities is land cost is very expensive. So we look for markets just outside of these major markets that are in that path of prosperity. So if you look at the Tampa map, you see that it's very concentrated and it's dense around the water. Tampa is obviously a great market because it offers a lot of entertainment, a lot of lifestyle, and a lot of major employers. The land cost makes it impossible to invest here. Let's go ahead and jump to the Build to Rent market scorecard and we can go a little bit deeper. So when we look at the Build to Rent market scorecard, we're going to look at a couple key criteria. Number one is population growth. Growth can be high, but if it's not going higher, it's not really a good market to be in. Next, we're looking at the per capita income. So again, the higher the better. Average is okay if land cost is even lower. We're looking for it to be moderately high. And here's the big kicker. We want to see incomes go up. So stagnant wages is not good. Wages that are rapidly improving are better. That means that we're getting stronger employment going to that area. Then you want to look at vacancy rates. You want to look at permits per 100,000 residents. You also want to look at the land cost for a typical 2-bedroom to be built there. And then you want to look at the average rents. When you look at all that data, let's go ahead and dive into Hillsborough County and we'll highlight some changes there. So population growth at a 5.6% is phenomenal. When we look at the median wage, 63,000 is okay, right? That's fine. Income change is phenomenal at 6.3%. The vacancy rate is fine at 6.8. Permits are actually low. So this is our first sign that Tampa has some opportunity. Their permits are actually low for their current population. When we look at the next column, which is the average land cost, this is when we get an acre and divide it by 8. That gives us our average cost for a typical 2-bedroom. You see that as $89,000. That's expensive for just having land for a 2-bedroom apartment. So that's our major concern. And that's also why permitting is so difficult in a market like Tampa. Hard to make the numbers work. And usually you're working with a city or a county that's more challenging to work with. And the average rent for a 2-bedroom is just shy of $2,000, which is pretty good. When we summarize this county, we're saying it's a little bit underbuilt. It has high land costs and high rents. To make a deal work in Tampa or Hillsborough County, you're looking at building a 100-story building. That land cost is too expensive. The rents are good. Income is good. The demand is high, but that land cost makes it almost impossible to build a residential property. That's a property between 1 through 4, but the land cost makes it too difficult to build something that's between 1 through 4 units. That's residential property. If we start looking at Tampa, we're looking at the areas just a little bit north to find areas that are in a path of prosperity. These are areas that are still coastal, still have a lot of the benefits of being near the coast, has a high standard of living, but obviously isn't as expensive. So you find this sweet spot right between Tampa and Crystal River. This area is called Homosassa, Florida. What we like about this area, it's along the route of Route 19, which gets you down to Tampa. It's also fairly close to Ocala, and Ocala is going to serve as your economic hub. That's where a lot of your major jobs are. That's where your Amazon, your FedEx, your Arthur Grumman, a lot of your major employers are all going to be based in Ocala. And I have a separate video talking specifically about Ocala, so I'm not going to go into it here. The point is you have a lot higher income, but you still have very low housing costs. In fact, the average per capita income in Homosassa, Florida is $88,000. That's higher than nearby counties and Tampa. So you have a higher income, but your land cost here is very cheap and your rents are about the same as you would get in Tampa. So someone who currently lives in Tampa is looking at a higher quality of life in Homosassa. And again, a lot of people find this market to be very appealing. The average rent for a 2-bedroom in this market is $1,800. That's only $100 less than Tampa. So what you're going to find is your rents are about the same, but your land cost and overall cost to build is a lot cheaper here. This is what makes it a great build to rent market. So in this market, your incomes are higher, your land costs are cheaper, and the rents are about the same. That's what makes Homosassa a great build-to-rent market. A quick note about appreciation is in the last 5 years, Homosassa has been going up in value at an average about 10%, which is phenomenal. All right, now let's go ahead and dive into the build-to-rent investment opportunities. As you can tell, if you go to buildtorent.com, you'll see several different options that we have here. We are essentially the Costco for turnkey properties. So as you can see, if you go to our inventory, we have some single family homes, we have some duplexes in this area. Let's go ahead and dive into the single family home. And we're going to be looking at specifically the 40-year DSCR loan. The first 10 years are interest only, and then it's amortized over 30 years thereafterwards. Your interest rate is fixed for the entire 40 years. All right, let's go ahead and dive into the performa. We're starting up by looking at the incentives. We're getting a 5.25% interest rate for this property. Again, this is all seller paid. This is being paid for by the builder. There's no contribution needed for the buyer. We're also providing 2 years free property management and 2% towards closing costs. Absolute steal, phenomenal investment opportunity. And these are the same rents that we're getting inside of this market. So when you go under contract, you're going to have a purchase agreement and a property management agreement. The property management agreement will have the same rental rate number that we have here. So this is not our numbers. This is a property management team's numbers. So when we look at all the benefits, we got the cash flow, we got the debt pay down, we got the appreciation, you got the tax benefits there. So you're looking to get an ROI in the very first year of about $35,000. That's a phenomenal investment. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the property tour. A couple of things you notice right off the bat from this property. One, it's in a gorgeous suburban setting. People who live in this area are looking for a higher quality of life. All of the neighboring homes are going to have pools, pool cages, more expensive landscaping. This is the type of market you want to enter if you want to see home appreciation. You see window blinds come included. This has luxury plank flooring throughout. And this has everything that an investor needs to have a turnkey property right off the bat. So again, this is 4-2 of pure luxury, pure high-end. In a property like this, in this area of Homosassa, you're going to go a little bit premium throughout. To see the full property video, you can go to our Build to Rent YouTube page or buildtorent.com. We'll see you next time.